Hello once again to all my perseverance pioneers out there. We're coming to you live right here from our famous dialogue den here in our studio. And I know you didn't expect to hear from us very soon. Breaking news, early developments happening right this moment. And we had to do another live episode. We had to. We just did one today. We don't typically do 2 episodes in a day, but I feel it's warranted for the news that we're sharing that President Trump has said that we are successful in our obliteration of Iranian nuclear sites. We're standing by now to basically see what's happening, and also I believe that President Trump will be speaking, so we want to do a screen share on that, of course, and I think it's happening, so let me actually go ahead and do that, because we do have it on the next screen here. Let me go ahead. Here it is. Yes, happening as we speak. So let's go ahead here and share this. Again, this is just breaking. This is everything happening as we wanted to get this out there to all of our perseverance pioneers. Hear what the president has to say.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Well, let's just say, wow, 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 wow. We were doing our earlier episode today, and we have to welcome back to all of our Perseverance pioneers. This is part 2 of our deep dive in the U.S. attack on Iranian nuclear sites, featuring the stealth bombers that were moving in to perform this attack to attack Iran. If today's earlier episode caught you off guard, then this news is truly breaking news. So you're going to want to buckle up even tighter. So in the early hours of today, the United States deployed 6 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, other words, bombs, via B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles from submarines to strike Iran's key nuclear sites at Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Moments later, President Trump posted on Truth Social, "We have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. And now is the time for peace." So it would have been this evening. We're on a little time warp ahead. So he added, "Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were spectacular military success. If peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill." So in today's episode, we'll unpack this operation, the planning and execution, the immediate fallout, Iran's reaction and global responses. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of heated responses on this one. And global reactions, how allies and adversaries will respond at the UN and beyond, and any strategic consequences with this, long-term impacts, deterrence on regional imbalance. And again, is this drawing on our last episode? Is this drawing on now? Will that phone call between the U.S. and Iran and Israel, will that phone call be happening? Because what we just witnessed was the complete obliteration of these nuclear sites, being touted as a massive success. And by the end of this episode, you'll know what just happened today, why, and where we go from here. So gear up, Perseverance pioneers. It's time to get into this. So let's start with the nuts and bolts here. How this strike was truly carried out. Intelligence gathering. Of course, for months, the U.S. and allied satellites, UAVs, and cyber intelligence assets monitored Fordow's underground vault nearly 300 feet beneath the mountain's surface. The target selection, 3 sites, Fordow, Natanz, Esfahan, and also drawing into consideration other sites, but these were the main ones. So Fordow is a buried centrifuge complex. Natanz is enrichment halls, and Esfahan, fuel plate and research reactors. So now what did we use to achieve this goal? We used 6 GBU-57 massive ordnances, and there's never been no history of these ever being used on the battlefield. This is the first time today. So these spirits from Whiteman AFB, Air Force Base. Each bomb weighs approximately 30,000 pounds, designed to burrow through 200 feet of rock before actually detonating. In this operation, also 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from 2 Virginia-class submarines positioned in the northern Persian Gulf. So the timeline for this attack, the timeline for this operation was at 0005 local, B-2s lifted off at 0030, subs launched Tomahawks. By 0115, all munitions had struck their targets within a 5-minute window, and by 0200, every aircraft had missile-cleared Iranian airspace. The rules of engagement upon this were presidential authorization, explicitly mandated no regime change, sole objective, destroy enrichment capacities. That level of precision, simultaneously with stealth and penetration, cruise missile strikes, is only possible through months of planning, joint U.S. and Israeli intelligence sharing, and cutting-edge technology. Now let's see what the world looks like on the other side. So, of course, we're going to be dealing with the immediate fallout of everything happening. Within hours, Iran's Atomic Energy Organization confirmed damage at all 3 sites, but vowed to, of course, rebuild and enrich faster than before, labeling strikes an act of unprecedented aggression. As we said in our other episode, I don't think these folks were baking us cookies and writing us love letters for many years before this. No, they've been harming Americans and threatening and chanting death to America for years. And also, KUT radio reports that state media ordered evacuations around surviving facilities and mobilized Revolutionary Guard units to prepare for any follow-on strikes. So on Capitol Hill, you already know the lawmakers are already split. They're already the split between the supporters of the president and the not supporters of the president. Supporters, of course, lauded Trump's decisiveness, calling it a blow to nuclear proliferation. And of course, the critics lack of congressional approval, citing war powers concerns. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council is convening on Monday to debate an emergency resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire and return to diplomacy. So that's the immediate fallout as it looks for right now. Let's zoom out. Let's sit back for a little bit. Let's have another sip of our Italian black roast coffee. And let's talk more about the global reaction. So the ripple effects, they're spreading pretty fast because this is pretty unprecedented. On our earlier episode, we were seeing what was going to happen in a 2-week time frame. It was literally less than a few hours before our last episode was about to go out. Now we're doing another one to explain the results of that. So from Gulf allies, Saudi Arabia and the UAE issued caution statements urging de-escalation, yet behind closed doors, they privately appreciated the blow to Iran's UMD capacity. Qatar and Oman offered to host emergency talks. In Europe, Germany and France condemned the strikes but pledged to help broker peace talks. The UK underlined it as its ironclad support for the U.S., but stressed that diplomacy must resume now going forward. And of course, Russia and China both blasted the operation as a dangerous precedent, suggesting they may veto any U.S.-favored UN resolution. And again, any non-state actors. Hezbollah in Lebanon is reportedly on high alert, raising fears of proxy attacks in Syria and Iraq. Houthi rebels in Yemen threaten to escalate attacks on shipping in the Red Sea, and the world is watching and reacting to this in real time. And why shouldn't they be? Because this is pretty swift and an act that is going to be defined by the aftermath. So what does this all mean long term? Let's talk nuclear setback versus resilience. So Iran's deep buried sites at Fordow will take at least 12 to 18 months to rebuild that if sanctions don't tighten further on them. But Tehran has redundancy built in. Centrifuges from Natanz could be relocated underground anywhere. So we talking about deterrence or escalation? U.S. demonstrated unparalleled strike capacity. Deterrence bolstered from this attack, yet the risk of tit-for-tat retaliation, missile strikes on U.S. bases or U.S. forces, shipping lanes climbs sharply, but U.S. and Israeli diplomacy ties will be stronger than ever after this attack, but European partners worry they will be sidelined for not taking more of an active role in this attack or just not really leaning into it because who wants to get involved in these things when many countries have many conflicts going on in the world right now. So let's talk about some messaging from other adversaries. China and Russia take note. The U.S. can hit deep underground with impunity, lethality, and force. Peace through strength. North Korea watchers will be analyzing this for clues on U.S. thresholds. The strategic balance has shifted from today going forward, but it remains dangerously fluid at the moment. All this is breaking. Everything is just happening as we are talking to all of our perseverance pioneers. And remember in our last episode when the president was asking the leader of Iran to make a deal, to take the deal, to get the diplomacy started? So now here we are after that, after they were kowtowing and tapping us along. Remember that theme. One phone call could have changed everything. One meeting or summit could have changed it. Even now, back channel envoys exist, led by other former diplomats, Red Cross intermediaries, quietly shuttling messages. Publicly, Iran's supreme leader rages, but behind closed doors, negotiators have signaled willingness to talk. Before this strike took place today, before this lethal strike took out nuclear sites today, at least on a humanitarian and nuclear safety issues. Imagine if before the bombs fell, someone had said, let's jump on a Zoom, let's jump into a meeting, let's have a summit meeting and hash this out. Diplomacy isn't weak. It's the strongest deterrent of all. And there was a moment for Iran to have that diplomacy, but they refused to take it, didn't take it seriously. So here's where we are. And this, even now, may not be beyond reach, because this is a taste of what is to come. What is to come? So this diplomacy has to be continued. After these attacks, there's going to be a lot of talk. There's going to be a lot of noise. But at the end of the day, we got to remember why what was done was done. No American troops were harmed. The attack was swiftly and lethally carried out. And the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world now has a major setback on a program that they used as leverage in negotiations with the United States. That is gone. It's out the window. And that's the fact. So what does this mean for all of us? I know on our last episode, we were saying, hey, we're going to see where this 2 weeks leave us. And you even got comments on our other social media accounts. I think people had commented to our podcast saying, this is not going to take 2 weeks. I guarantee it. Put money on it. And just an hour or so after that, what happened is what happened. So with all this, you might feel powerless, but remember, it's only important to what you watch, what information and news you're taking in, and rotate your sources. Rotate your sources. You're hearing about this strike. You're hearing things from CNN, MSNBC, things you watch on YouTube. Everybody's talking about this. It just happened. This is breaking news across the board. It's global news. Go to different sources. Read about things. Read about the attack. Read about what actually happened. Follow independent analysis. Follow independent channels. And also, we're going to see where this is going to lead. Peace through strength may have just eliminated one of the leading state sponsors of terrorism throughout the globe. But we're going to see what the next steps of this are. This is the Perseverance Mindset Podcast, where informed action meets calm resolve. Thank you for watching us this evening. This is breaking news. Don't forget, if you like what you've heard and you like the information, you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe to us on X, YouTube, Facebook. We want to hear from you. And we also want to hear from you in saying, was this strike legally justified? I know many people are going to be screaming war powers resolution and the UN Charter Self-Defense Clause, and the president can act through Congress and challenge a resolution. What do you think about that? Can Iran rebuild faster underground? Well, technically, yes, but it costs more time to escalate. Sanctions made it harder to import materials. And as I was mentioning just a moment ago, there was a comment on one of our social pages when we were mentioning 2 weeks. Somebody had commented and said, John, this is not taking 2 weeks. I will be surprised if it doesn't happen in the next 24 to 48 hours. And that person was right. That person was right. You know who you are. That was one of our Perseverance pioneers. So Perseverance pioneers, today we saw how quickly things develop, things evolve, and can become, from diplomacy to those Bombay doors. But remember, our greatest power is choice, and the choices we make to stay informed, demand dialogue, and also engage in the peace through strength mindset when dealing with bad actors and foreign state enemies. So keep pushing for peace. So until next time, this is the Perseverance Mindset. I'm John Zedzura, signing off.